You are now live with me, G3, and tonight I'm going to talk to Honorable Senator and Vice Presidential Candidate Kiko Pangilinan. He has served a total of 17 years in the Philippine Senate, and we are going to talk to him in just a bit. But before that, I want to thank all of my sponsors on Live with G3. Beginning with GAOC, I want to thank Dr. Steve Mark Gan. I want to thank Bello Med, Dr. Vicky Bello. I want to thank Asian Eye Institute for my LASIK surgery, Dr. Cruz. I want to thank Centro Holistico. I want to thank Swatch PH, Tita Virgie Ramos, for providing all of my watches on the show. This is my beautiful brown quilted Swatch skin. If you want to get your own Swatch watches, go to any Swatch PH stores or Lazada PH. I also want to thank my water sponsor, Evian. And I want to thank Boca Juan Filipinas for my wine tonight. Thank you, Carlo. Let's see who's here. Hello, guys. Hi. We are going to talk to Vice Presidential candidate Kiko Pangilinan. And let us see if he is here. Senator Kiko Pangilinan requests to join. So let us look for him. He hasn't requested, but I am going to look for him. He was on standby minutes ago. So now I'm sending an invite. Of course, he is the running mate of Vice President Leni Robredo. Hi, hello. Hi, Bonch. Always watching, Bonch. Please welcome Vice Presidential candidate and Honorable Senator Sir Kiko Pangilinan. Hi, Sen Kiko.
Hi, G3. How are you?
I'm good. Wow, naka-gel.
Actually, tubig lang yan. Wait, let me have some light here.
Kamusta yung araw mo? Kamusta yung araw mo, sir?
Well, hectic. We resumed our sessions today. So we had a caucus sa Senate. We discussed a number of concerns ng Senado, particularly yung budget. Our budget debates will begin tomorrow for the 2022 budget. So yun. And then before that, press conference, may mga meetings with sectors. I met with Nurses Association. And then before that, a policy briefing sa Office of the Vice President. So yun. And then in the afternoon, merong taping para sa YouTube channel ni Sharon. So, sunod-sunod. Yeah.
Very busy.
Hilong talilong. Ika nga, hilong talilong. Yeah.
Very busy. Thank you for making the time for me. Actually, I met you when we were filming, when I was working on the documentary of your stepdaughter, KC, from Paris to Pinas, 14 years ago. That was the first time I interviewed you in your pool house pa in Wakwak.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, and 14 years na pala yun, ano?
Yeah, and then mega tatlong dekada naman for Sharon's documentary. 13 years ago, a year after that. But did you know that the first time I actually met you was when I was in high school in Ateneo, and you came in doing a career talk.
Okay.
On how to become a lawyer. You came to Ateneo High School, and then you talked to us. And I know that you're a Lasallian, you're a Lasalite. So my first question would be, what can you really say about Ateneans? Ano masasabi mo sa mga Atenista?
Well, I taught in the Ateneo for almost 7 years. So I was part of the Ateneo academic community. So what can I say about the Ateneans? Siyempre, marami akong kaibigan, magagaling, mahuhusay, worthy adversaries, ika nga. Dahil ako'y taga-Lasal, di ba?
Yes, but you went to UP Law School, di ba? What made you think of going into law school?
Oh, I was a student leader during the Marcos regime, student activist. And sa Parliament of the Streets, ang tinitingala naming mga leader ng oposisyon, sina Senator Salonga, Senator Tanyada, Senator Padilla, no? So mga Pepe Jokno, lahat puro mga abogado, no? So, doon pa lang. And of course, Senator Pepe Joc, no, was very active in free legal assistance, providing protection and upholding and defending human rights. So, you know, it was a natural, how do you call it,
Progression. Yeah.
progression to go into law school. I remember yung sinabi ni Pepe Joc no na, you know, justice and the law are not necessarily synonymous, especially when the levers of power are concentrated in with a few. No? So, in other words, the law must serve the ends of justice, and that was really pretty much something that inspired me to pursue law.
Very quickly, I want to say hi to Bianca Salonga because you mentioned Attorney Salonga. So I want to say hi to his granddaughter, Bianca Salonga. You come from an extra large family, just like me. And it's very Filipino. You come from an extra large family, 9 siblings, diba? Parang
Yes.
how do you grow up in such an extra large family?
Well, laging masaya. Of course, parang dinner time lang is already
Riot.
is a party. And we're very close. Tapos the Pangilinans, kapampangan ng father ko, very very clannish ang mga kapampangan and extended. So we were close to our cousins. So talagang maingay, masaya. Obviously, there was never a dull moment when you're 9 kids. And I was in the middle. I am 5th of 9 children. The girls went to Merinol, all girls, and the boys all went to LaSalle. And then, and in college, all 9 went to UP. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Scholar
so
ng bayan.
wala. Oh, lahat kami scholar ng bayan, kaya ako lang ang politiko actually sa magkakapatid.
That's why I was gonna ask kasi it's mostly a showbiz family, diba? Tita Angeli and
Yes.
Anthony. Among your siblings, who were you closest to?
Well, my kuya, Joseph, we were roommates, no, since I was born until he got married in 1987. So that's how old was I by 1987? I was 24, 23, 24. So for a quarter of a century, he was my roommate. So yeah, we were closest to my kuya.
Of course, when you had your own family, you also had like a bunch of kids, di ba? Marami na rin yung masasabing anak mo at a time like this, di ba? When you, parang for the kids today, can you tell us about, you know, I want to go into your love story with Sharon. Kasi of course, Sharon is also one of my nanays in show business. I'm very close to her. And you know, the kids today don't really know about your love story. So I want to start sweet and I want to ask you about how you met and how you fell in love. For the kids today.
Well, we met in my brother's wedding. Anthony and Maricel, they were married in December of 1994. 93, sorry, December 1993. And she was with someone else. I didn't have any wala akong date nun sa wedding ni Anthony and Maricel. Ayun, and nagkatagpo kami. She was on her way to the restroom. And I happened to be, you know, close by. She saw me, she said hi, and I said hello. And yun. But I was not...
First move pala si Nay Mega. Siya yung nag-first move.
Well, she said hi, yes. Parang, ang kwento niya is, she assumed, dahil magkakilala kami, magkamukha kami ni Anthony, na ako yung kapatid, no? So she said she was on her way to the restroom, and then I happened to be, somewhere near the restroom, and so she had to pass where I was, and she said hi, and I said hello, and that's it. But she found me masungit. Ako naman, sabi ko, I can be.
My dog, he's barking so loud. He's chasing a cat. Anyway, so of course, was the Sorry. Oh my gosh, my dog is barking
Okay,
so
maybe he wants to participate in our interview.
I know he's chasing a cat. Anyway, was the attraction the initial was the attraction very very immediate for you? Of course, megastar Sharon Cuneta. The first
Well,
time you saw her.
the attraction was more, let's put it this way, that I knew that she, she valued family. I knew that she loved her, her family, and she would, you know, move heaven and earth for family. I knew that, and and that's how she was raised, and that's how I was raised too. Family is central in any how do you call it?
Unit.
Anyone who value,
Yeah.
central lang family, lalo na sa Pilipinas, no? So napakahalaga, family values is very sacred to me. Let's put it that way, no? And that was something that I was, very interested in. But hindi ka agad magic eh. But yon, in fact, ang akala niya masyado akong masungit, no? Kasi nga high lang. Ako naman sinadya ko yun. Kasi kasi alam ko lahat ng mga, hindi naman lahat, pero the most parang common, di ba? Responsor is, ay, si Sharon, excited, di ba? Ako, hindi ako excited, di ba? Parang, kunwari, hindi ako.
Suplado.
Parang ganun, suplado. So, kita mo, sabi ko, effective, naalala mo, hanggang ngayon, sasabihin niya yun. Kwento niya na iba yung aking response, parang serious and suplado, di ba? Parang sungit. So, effective, she remembered, di ba? Di ba? So, yun. And then, January, I was, I dropped by her birthday. Doon pa sa, music hall? Yung sa may Annapolis.
Yes. Malapit sa
Music hall.
EDSA.
Yeah,
Malapit
music
sa
hall
EDSA.
ba? Yeah. That's where I
Something
first
like
saw,
that.
Casey, she was 8 turning 9. And yun, and she was there, and then we said hello, etc. And then after that, I don't know if you know RC Baltasar.
Yes.
Yeah, RC was like the go-between, the bridge, the Cupid. He would call her, and then I would talk to RC. Oh, what happened? Oh, yeah, and then we started dating after that.
When you were courting her, were you the only one courting her? Or marami siyang manliligaw?
Alam ko marami eh. Dalawa o tatlo ata apart from me. No? So,
of course, and then you, of course, diba, ikaw yung nanalo. Kasi I remember I was interviewing Mommy Elaine then, and then when she was still alive for the documentary, and she said nga na ang dami rin ng liligaw kay Sharon. Was that intimidating for you that, she was the megastar and everyone that was courting her was also in entertainment? Or what was it like, parang courting her and finally winning her in the end?
Sa totoo lang, I don't know. Hindi ako madaling ma-intimidate eh.
Wow!
I'm sorry, but hindi naman sa yabang, but I guess I'm just
confidence.
I'm secure about who I am. What I stand for, what I believe in, what I'm willing to die for, and what I'm willing to, go through. Parang maliwanag sa akin. I guess we were raised that way by my parents, no? That you're clear about what's important. You're clear about your faith. You're clear about what you believe in, what you're willing to die and fight for. So yun, I don't know. Yun, so hindi ako na-intimidate. Mahalagang importante yung pera, pero, sa akin. And I was a literature major. English major ako nung undergrad ko. That was my pre-law course. So, you read all the literature, you read all about,
Yates and
so sa akin, ang importante, what do I believe in? What do I value? And if we have the same values and we share, common aspirations, and kahit saan ka pagaling, saan ka papunta, basta mahalaga sa iyong pamilya, mahalaga sa iyong panalangin at ang Diyos. Sige, why not, But no, I wasn't intimidated by power or wealth or fame. Besides, Gary and Ate Jelly were already married like 15 years by that time. So, I'm familiar with fame in terms of, not me, no, but in terms of the family, di ba? In other words, um, hindi ako parang, I don't know how you explain it, but I didn't, parang, I don't get giddy over these things. I don't know. Because, yun na nga, sikat ka nga, di ba? Marami kang ang pera, pero masama ka naman tao. Di ba? Sa akin, wala. Di ba?
Very,
So
very
what?
self-assured. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So
I
what?
remember, it was, I think Mommy Elaine was making kwento this, parang, I don't know if they were bought off with you from the start. Basta nagdala ka daw ng food kay Mayor. Parang, ano ba yun? Clams or oil? Hindi ko alam
No,
eh.
no.
Basta,
First, I gave Sharon, kasi birthday niya, January 6, no? So, padala ko ng lobsters, live lobster.
yun, lobsters. I knew it was seafood. Ganyan.
Yes, yes.
Dun daw na win over si Mayor.
And then my father-in-law, si Mayor, si Daddy, February 2 ang birthday niya eh. So January 6 si Sharon, di ba? So ang pinadala ko kay Sharon was, lobsters. Live lobsters, di ba? February 2, birthday ni Daddy, ang pinadala ko isang drum ng hito, live hito.
So, malikot ito.
Pero
malikot.
fresh fish, di ba?
Yeah.
Yun ang regalo ko sa father, my future father-in-law, no? But to the dad of Sharon. Sabi ko, ano bang pwede mong ibigay sa pamilyang they have pretty much everything, di ba? But pero yun. So yeah. Dinaan ko sa pagkain. Si Sharon na, imbis na bulaklak, si Sharon bulaklak, di ba? So,
Yun nga daw.
yeah, tsaka lechon bukawi. So yun ang mga, I guess, no need to impress. You just, just be yourself and yun. So ganun.
Of course, Sharon came with KC, diba? That's a known fact. And I want to ask you, like, how did your relationship with KC grow over the years? I mean, from the moment that you met her, and then I know that you're very, very close to her and that you lived together in Boston, and then you brought her to Paris. How was your relationship with KC? How did it grow through the years?
Well, from day one, I said, it can't just be Sharon. It has to be both mother and daughter. And yeah, I set that out as a given and something that I'm not just here to woo Sharon. I'm also here to woo, Casey and yun. I think the nice thing about the whole thing for me is that I really love kids. I mean, I guess we have this predisposition. My mother was a preschool teacher. First, ang mga estudyante ni Mami sa UP, si Attorney Gozon ng GMA 7, si Vice President Jojo Binay, former Secretary SP Cabral ng DOH, Bu Chanco, no? Yan ang mga estudyante ni Mami. But she was a teacher, no? And then she became a preschool teacher after she retired from UP. So may predisposition talaga kami sa mga bata. And then I taught, in education, and I taught sa Ateneo for about 7 years. So talagang sa akin mahalaga ang bata, mahalaga, and I love kids, and yun. So I really took time out to woo her, to be there for her, to to spend quality time with her, support her. I remember in the US, she was part of all the teams. Soccer,
sporty,
she was the most,
very sporty.
she was the most improved player in soccer when we were in the US. And then she also went into, I forget the uh, the racquetball. I forget the name of that sport. Gosh, it's 20 years ago. But anyway, 20 plus years ago, 24 years ago. And swimming. She went into swimming, and then of course dance. I would attend her parents teachers conferences.
Of course.
From Poveda days pa until IS. And I even in college, I sat down with her advisor there. So yeah, so I made it a point, and I guess my father also and my mother were hands-on parents. An interesting thing, when my father died, and the apos were talking, like
Lacrosse. They said lacrosse.
There, lacrosse. Sorry, yeah. Anyway, yeah, she played lacrosse. No? So okay, when my father passed away, the apos were all talking, giving their messages. Si Paulo, si Julia. They all thought they were the favorite apo, because my father was like that. He really took time out and spent time with his apos and made them really feel special. And when we were growing up, ganun din kami sa kay daddy, and mommy. They were all very, very present parents. And the number one cheerleaders. When I was running for student council in UP, my dad was there at the night of the counting, and he was doing his canvassing of projection, statistical probability of, and then volleyball, when I was a varsity player in UP and also in LaSalle, they would attend my games. So they were, so yun. And what I learned from my parents, diba, that's what I applied to KC.
Your first child, effectively.
Yeah. In fact, I tell her that, diba? I became a dad first because of you, diba? And that is something that I will always hold memorable and special.
That's very sweet. That's very sweet. Of course, you have other kids. You have Kaki, you have Yeli, and you have Miguel.
Yes.
And I want to ask what kind of a father you are. Syempre, dad advisor, diba? Parang everybody thinks you're such a strict dad. Kasi parang, like you said, diba, you look so serious and stern. I want to ask you, are you really a very, very strict father?
Well, I'm stricter than Sharon. Let's put it that way. But I also, realize, you have to not go down to their level, but you have to bring yourself to their level, okay? And it can't be all serious. And when they were growing up, we would always do pretend play. And because I read somewhere that pretend play is their work. In other words, it's their when they're playing, they're actually developing their personality, their character, their mind, their thinking, their brain development, etc. So play is very important for kids, and I would make time to play with them. And one of the pretend play was playing Tagalog. Yeah, because galing kami, we went to the beach, Punta Fuego ata yun. But in one part of the trip, you see sari-sari stores left and right going to Punta Fuego. All the colorful. Alam mo naman ang sari-sari store, di ba?
Yes.
So Frankie was probably around 2.5. So I brought her down. We stopped the car. I said, "This is a sari-sari store." And then and then sabi ko, "Pabili po." Patanggenyo eh. So lumabas yung and then, "Magkano po yan?" "Pabili po." And then, "Okay, bye-bye." So, and she saw all of that. So when we got home after the trip, I made a makeshift sari-sari store. Diba? Yung aming pantry, lahat ng bottled water, yung sardinas, yung canned goods, yung mga kung ano-anong mga nasa pantry, di ba? Nilagay ko doon. Tapos siya yung tindera. Tapos ako yung customer. No? Pero she would respond in English. But I told her, but remember, when we were in the sari-sari store, we were talking Tagalog. So we have to talk Tagalog. So siya naman, okay. So ako, magkano po yan? Siya naman, 54. Ang mahal naman. Pwede bang tumawad? 44. Kasi Tagalog daw eh. So I would do that to Frankie. So, si Miel, ganun din. You know, we are playing Tagalog. So sabi ko, anak, pagkatapos mong bago tayo kumain, kailangan maghugas tayo ng kamay para mamatay yung mga germs. Sabi niya, Dad, I thought we're playing Tagalog. Yes, we are. It's not germs. Oh, what is it? Germs. Germs. So, and you know, when Frankie was grade 1, nahihirapan siya sa Filipino. So grade 1, sabi sa kanya, Frankie, once you enter your Filipino class, you just tell yourself, I'm playing Tagalog. Because language, you have to think it. You don't translate it from English to ano. So
because we went to school, diba? Yeah.
Yes.
We think in English. That's
yes.
why.
So those pretend play episodes were really me also teaching them to imbibe Tagalog. Diba? In fact, meron pang isang version. Karinderya naman. So binili ko sila merong mga laruan, yung mga plastic na kung ano-ano, may prutas, may fried chicken, ganyan. So ako na naman yung customer. Si Frankie yung taga-luto, si Miel yung taga-serve. Baka mamaya sumunod na lang si Miguel, taga-serve. Tapos meron kaming scene dito na meron kasing sili, yung parang siling pang sinigang na plastic, di ba? So, manghang yun, di ba? So meron kaming routine na lalagay nila yung sili doon sa fried chicken. So, ako naman, siyempre, kunwari, pretend ka eh. Uy, ang sarap naman nitong pritong manok na ito. Tapos meron pang meron pang blackboard doon. Menu for the day. So, may kalendarya. So, may presyo pa. So, tapos, yung aming kakagating ko kunwari yung fried chicken, pag kagat ko ganyan, pretend nga eh. May sili, so ang anghang. Ang anghang! So, siyempre, nagpe-pretend ako, maanghang. Tapos, inom ako ng yung 2 weeks. Sila man, tawa na sila ng tawa. I mean, tapos uulitin ko nang uulitin, tatawa pa rin sila ng natawa. So, that's how we, tas bahay-bahayan. Gagawa ako ng bahay made out of yung kutsyon ng kama, kutsyon ng sofa, may kumot, tapos yung silya, yung whiteboard, ginawa kong parang doon ko ilalagay yung kumot, then we would play bahay-bahayan. So yeah, I may be a strict parent, but I made it a point to make sure that my children's childhood.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sounds like a very grounded, simple childhood. Of course, they're all grown up now, diba? Even Miguel is grown up. And of course, Kaki I follow Kaki on Twitter, I follow her on Instagram, and I think she's most like you in a way that she's very vocal in her beliefs and her convictions, diba? Parang,
yes.
And sometimes she gets bashed, or not sometimes, I mean like most of the time she gets bashed for that. How do you feel as a father when your daughter is bashed like that?
Siyempre, nasasaktan ka, di ba? And you want to, di ba, do something about it, which we do. We monitor this trolling and we try our best to counter it. But I tell her, don't be affected by the bashers because they're not real. They're orchestrated and they're, it's a calculated, calibrated disinformation that's out there. And believe me, millions more, the real people value what you're doing. They appreciate your courage. And it's these trolls and those influenced by the trolls. So we have to, those who spread the disinformation, union trolls, and those who become misinformed because of the disinformation, which are and therefore influenced. But yeah, masakit. But I tell her, I remind her and I reassure her that, as long as you believe and you're doing something because of your beliefs, diba? There's nothing to be sorry about, diba? And lilipas din yan. You know?
True.
And
Yeah.
parang alam mo yung kanyang pagiging vocal, si Sharon yun eh.
Yeah. I was
Di
gonna
ba?
say,
Di ba? Yung pagiging outspoken na ganyan, yung prangka, yung diretsong magsasalita, not mincing words, that's not me. Siguro yung tapang, in a way, siguro yung convictions, ako yun, di ba? Yung paninindigan. Pero yung ganung outspoken, ako, si Sharon yun. Kaya sabi ko nga eh, parang siguro, yun nga, improvement of the race, mas mabagsik pa. So, yeah. Si Miel naman is more introverted. Diba? More introverted si Miel, but she's very artistic too. You know? And yun naman ang mini Sharon.
True.
Tinawag nga sa kanya sa Cebu when we were there for Sharon's concert when Miel was what, 3-4 years old. Ang tawag sa kanya si Sharon Gamay. Saka yung pagka-introvert naman ni Miel, very ayaw talaga niya yung maraming tao. Na nasi-stress siya. At one point, may gustong magpa-picture sa amin. Sabi niya, siya mismo ayaw! Ayaw ko mag-picture, ayaw. Ano pa very Ilongga pa kasi yung yaya niya, Ilongga. Ayaw ko mag-picture, ayaw. Tapos nagtago sa likod ko. Pero si Frankie, Frankie, it's time, bedtime na, mag-8:30 na, may party. But Dad, I haven't said hi to everyone. and yun. And I remember si Frankie, nung bagong panganak si Sharon kay Miel, in-interview ako ng TV Patrol noon. So I went down, kasama ko si Frankie. And as I sat, and I was being interviewed, biglang enter frame si Frankie. Sabi niya, enter frame talaga. And told me, Dad, when it's time for me to say something, you call me. Baba-interview ka pa pala. Talagang, she was what? 3.5? So, talagang enter frame siya and talk to me, nahuli nung camera, Dad, when it's time for me not to say something, you call me. I remember that kasi nakita ni President Cory yun. Napanood niya TV Patrol, di ba? So sabi niya, nung nakita nga niya, sabi niya, yung anak mong yan, napanood ko, listang-lista talaga yan, listang-lista. Ayun. And then si Mita, my mother-in-law, said kay Frankie, pag maraming tanong yan, at dapat pag-isipan mo ng gusto yung sasagutin mo sa tanong niya. Sabi ko, bakit, Mami? Kasi pagka hindi mo inisip ng maayos, mapapahiya ka eh. kasi sasagutin niya na. Yun. So yun. I love kids. I love the family is the foundation of my being a person, being a human being, and so yun.
I asked that because, of course, like in your speech when you were announced as the running mate of VP Leni, you said, para sa mga anak ko, para sa mga anak natin, di ba? You were always repetitive of that, para sa mga anak natin, di ba? Yeah. It's a very, very emotional speech. Ako talaga, yun yung parang, wow, doon ako na-strike na parang, oh my gosh, okay, so this is the moment for him to announce that he's running for the vice presidency.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind when you started talking about, that sana lahat patas, lahat protektado, lahat may bakuna. You started becoming you choked up. What was going through your mind when you were delivering that speech?
Well, our nation is suffering. It's very sick. I mean, the pandemic. Thousands, tens of thousands. I don't know of anyone who doesn't have a friend, member of the family, kakilala, kapitbahay, katrabaho na namatay. So it's a very, very painful time for many of all of us. So many have lost their jobs. So there's so much suffering. And I don't want my children to live in a society, in this kind of society. We're not able to address uh, the health, the pandemic effectively, and then people have no jobs. People are begging in the streets. It's not right, diba? And you know, if you love your children, if you love your, diba, you will fight for them. Diba? You do everything humanly possible to protect them and make things right for them. And that's precisely what I feel I should be doing. In fact, when VP Leni asked me, you know, I was not inclined to accept it. Um, and the truth is, my first concern was that Sharon would be devastated because she's very close, diba, Senate President Soto and Tita Helen, no? And sabi ko, you know, diba, this will hurt her, and I can't, diba, I can't allow, you know, so much more pain than there already is, diba? But you know, it turns out, and I didn't know, and I didn't expect it, that they were both there in the U.S., in New York, in fact, Frankie and Sharon. And when I sent them the text message at 3 in the morning New York time, I assumed they were asleep already because, you know, 12 hours in difference. I said VP Leni was asking me to be her VP. And I was assuming, tulog na sila, at least pagising nila 4 or 5 hours later, mababasa nila, and then we will talk. Diba? But yun, and it turns out they prayed about it. And Frankie told me, you know, we haven't prayed this way, you know, in such a way in a long time. And all that. And then they said, and because she was asleep now when I finally got to talk to Frankie, Sharon was asleep na mga 4:30 in the morning na doon, 4:30 in the afternoon dito. I was on my way na to talk to the Vice President. But I hadn't spoken to Sharon. And then Frankie said, we prayed. Oh. And then she said, and what did Mama say? She said, you know, whatever you decide, she will support you.
Wow.
Huh? Are you sure? Yeah. Yes, Dad, that's what, wait, I have to talk to her, sabi ko. Anyway, sabi ko, I'll talk to the Vice President and then I'll talk to Mama later when she wakes up. So yun. We didn't plan this. It was not really my plan to run for Vice President. But when VP Leni asked me, and you know, I was having second thoughts because precisely that was not the plan, and you know, it's no joke. But I realized in the end, you know, if I said no, she was going to file without a Vice President, meaning solo. And I said, parang, you know, she has to win, and filing without a Vice President may not, you know, may affect her, diba, her chances. Kasi parang, ano, inisip ko very quickly na, kung wala siyang Vice President, baka sabihin ng iba, hindi ka nga makakumbinsin ng Vice President.
Yeah.
Diba, yung tao pa. No? So I said, I didn't, and I wanted her to win. And I believe she has, you know, shown, you know, leadership during the time of COVID and really. So I said she has to win. And so if I have to sacrifice so that her bid will not suffer, will be not weakened. I didn't want to, I didn't want her not, I didn't want to be, how do you call it, to be a reason why her candidacy was weakened.
Yeah. Actually, you answered like my next 3 questions. Yeah, but it was my understanding that she wanted to unite the opposition. That's why she went to other, you know, members of the opposition.
No other national political leader did what she did.
That's true.
She talked to all.
Yeah.
All presidentials, apart from, of course, 1 or 2. But yeah, all the others who were not, you know, were considering running up against the administration. Kinausap niya lahat. Inisa-isa niya, nag-meeting. I helped her put together those meetings. I helped her arrange for a number of those meetings. Because, you know, she said, we need to unite if we are to redirect the course of the nation. And anyone and everyone who's willing to help us redirect the course of the nation, whether they be the candidate or someone else, importante magkaisa. But nga, the talks collapsed.
The other candidates also had other plans in mind, and it eventually became you. And I want to ask you, because you are such a shoe-in for senator, as in siguradong panado, but then as vice president, diba, there will always be a question of winnability considering everyone that you are up against. And I know you've been asked that, and then you've already said in interviews that, if somebody, more winnable comes along, you would gladly step down. But then after, the announcement that you are the running mate and you went on ground and you saw the support of the people, you said, hindi, wala na tong atrasan. So I want to ask you, what is it like on the ground? I know that you've been going around with VP Leni, and I want to ask you how you feel about, the reception of the people as you've gone around, the provinces and the rest of the country. How does it feel to get that amount of support?
I haven't seen this in the last 20 years.
Wow.
I ran for the Senate in 2001, my first national campaign. So it's 2021, so that's 20 years. I haven't seen, this is the first time I'm seeing this kind of response, of the citizens. Sila na mismo, it's like it's their fight too. It's not just the candidacy of Vice President Leni or my candidacy. It's not just about campaigning for us. They're also campaigning for their future and the future of their children, I think. Everybody is so invested. I haven't seen this. Sabi ko nga, sa 20 years ko, pang-apat na election ko na ito, ngayon lang ako nagka-billboard. Di pa ako nagbayad. Mahal kasi. Di ba? Mahal yung billboard. Pero volunteers, they're donating it, di ba? So ibang klase in Bacolod. I got pink puto. Somebody gave me pink flowers.
Ano flavor yun? Strawberry?
Hindi, parang pink, what do you call it? Watercolor. Ano yun? Food coloring.
Food coloring.
Yeah, pink food coloring. So it's puto, but it's pink. Pandesal was pink.
Wow.
So, yeah, they would. And then when we got home, iba-iba. The Carmelite nuns, they sent us stampitas, prayers for protection, and they also gave us goodies, snacks. So, and then I get from Pampanga, Caroline Simeon. She started producing masks. And then binibili. Di ba? Usually yung kandidato nagbibigay, di ba?
Sa Lazada, meron daw shirts. My sister bought this morning. Pinakita niya sa group chat ng family namin. Even in
yes.
Lazada, there's a fundraising for you.
Yes. So people are actually shelling out money rather than asking for money. Or in our case, the politician is not spending for the t-shirts and the masks. Wala pa, hindi pa namin na ihahanda lahat yun, pero meron na because people themselves are buying it. So iba, in the last 5.5 years, it was such a lonely, difficult, journey because, when I became president of the Liberal Party in 2016, everybody was leaving the Liberal Party. We were 115 congressmen who won as LP, but after a month and a half, 20 na lang kami.
Wow.
Sa Senate, we were 7 of 12 who won, but at some point, 3 na lang kami. So iniiwanan na kami, di ba? Sabi ko nga, tapos binobomba kami kaliwat kanan. All the bashing and the trolling and the fake news about me, about binubugbog ko daw si Sharon, even the Vice President, yung fake news tungkol sa kanya, talagang vicious, di ba? So parang, we felt parang so alone, But, we didn't give up. At one point, I was thinking, what am I doing? I'm being bashed left and right, insulted. But why don't I just do what everyone else is doing? Just keep quiet and just close my eyes and say, look the other way. Pero sabi ko, I can't. If I do that, I can't. Parang I'm giving up. And I'm not going to give up for my children. They deserve better. So when we filed, I really thought it would be another lonely, difficult journey. Na I'm just doing this. I'm doing this because someone has to do it, and I happen to be in a position to do so. I wasn't doing this because I was excited about it or I look forward to it. On the contrary, sabi ko nga, magiging malungkot na naman dito, kaliwat kanan naman ang di ba, ang pag-iinsultong tatanggapin namin, pero sige na, di ba? I cannot face my children and say that there was this opportunity to do something about it, and I turned my back. And then sumabog na nga yung bumahan na ng suporta.
It must be so encouraging, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll read to you what I sent Frankie because she sent me. She said, "I hope it's okay." No.
Yeah.
Where are you? There you are. Because she sent me a message. You look happy, Dad. He said. Here. She said, "You look happy in Bacolod. Proud of you." And I said, "Yes, happy." Because I thought that, like the past 5.5 years of cruel and relentless insults and vicious attacks thrown at us, at the assaults on our dignity and self-respect, that this 2022 campaign to make things right would be an extremely difficult and lonely fight. It's turning out to be the opposite. We are no longer just a few hardy souls. We are now beginning to see the fruits of our tireless efforts, of our refusal to give up, of our persistence in plodding on despite difficulties. The people have begun to embrace this fight as their own and have begun to fight back. And then I told her, your own courage to speak out has helped make this happen. We were just talking about your being matapang with some of our supporters in Bacolod. The Gen Zers would come up to me asking about you, looking for you. This is also, because of what you've done. I'm proud of you too, and I love you, and I miss you. So, yeah, hindi nakakaunti. Hindi nakakaunti, hindi naiilan. Marami na ang tumataya, marami na rin ang tumitindig. And I know they're doing this because they love their families, they love their children, they love the
Philippines.
And they love the country, and they know that they're fighting for a better future for their children, their families, and for all families. Kaya nga, mas radikal ang magmahal.
True. Very resistance talaga siya. Very Star Wars resistance. Yeah. Diba? Leader of the resistance. So parang ganun yung mangyayari. I'm very excited to vote. I'm very excited for 2022 because I feel like it's going to be a very, very large shift, diba? In dynamic and everything. Of course, like speaking of like shifts in dynamics, diba? Hindi pa kasi tapos yung deadline. On November 15, how will your campaign strategy change if or when Sara Duterte decides to run as Marcos Jr.'s running mate as VP? How is it going to affect your campaign strategy?
We will just focus on our commitment to serve the people in an honest and competent way. I think that's what the people are looking for anyway. It's not going to be easy, no. Any candidate any candidate who knows how to win will say that your opponents are always, you should always run scared, and never underestimate your opponents. And that's what we will be doing. We will be focusing on our commitment. We will be focusing on campaigning and convincing the voters that what we need is Vice President Leni, precisely because she has shown that she knows the way out of the of COVID and the right COVID response and hunger and joblessness. She's an economist, And the last 2 years, she has done nothing but find solutions given the meager resources to address COVID. And the various challenges of COVID, from the frontliners to the lack of jobs, to testing, to tracing, to support for frontliners, PPEs, lahat, di ba? And then yan ang kailangan natin. And that's the message we want to impart sa ating mga voters. That we deserve better and that we believe Vice President Leni is the leader that will bring us out of this COVID mess we're in and restore, and resuscitate our naghihingalong ekonomiya and create jobs that really our people are looking for.
Ako nga, iniisip ko, mas radical pa. As in, like, mag-black ops na tayo since ganun din naman yung ginagawa. Mag-black ops na tayo. But I wanna ask you, and I asked this to former Senator Bam Aquino 2 weeks ago. I asked him, parang there's so much fake news and misinformation and historical revisionism, going on online. I mean, like, half of the people, half of the young generation, they believe that, Marcos Jr. is, actually, doing something good and the best option that we have. And I'm wondering, what you think about Luffy? Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Senator. It's so embarrassing.
No, it's
Anyway,
okay. We love dogs.
They're chasing a cat. Anyway, the historical revisionism is, I want to point out really where it came from. Is it the fault of the educational system because it's not in the textbooks, or it's not taught to the children, or is it our fault as parents? Because of course, generations have been birthed after, your generation and my generation. Hindi ba napasa yung, because ako, I'm a martial law baby. I was born during martial law. My parents and my grandparents, they passed on the lessons of history to me and my siblings. I went to Ateneo. But did it ever, cross your mind na it's maybe the fault of the educational system or the parents that hindi ito napasa sa mga kabataan, kaya ganito kalala yung misinformation online?
Well, it's a combination of many things. But first, I just want to say, with respect to that, mag-black ops na rin tayo. No. And I've said this before, we cannot become the dragons we seek to slay. We cannot become the monsters we hope to defeat.
Okay.
Okay. Now, having said that, it's a combination of a lot of things. One, the educational system. Our sense of history is somehow, how do you call it, lacking in depth in that sense. Sabi nga nila, he who does not learn from the lessons of history, di ba?
Doomed to repeat it.
Yeah. And and here education plays a key role. For example, how can it, and I don't blame, many of our citizens. Our history is pretty much written by the elite. It's not the history of the magtataho or the magbabalot or the farmer or the ano bang blacksmith sa Tagalog?
Panday. Ay?
Yeah, panday.
Tama?
Hindi history ng masa. Di ba? Si Paul Revere was a panday.
Oh, really?
He worked with his hands. Di ba? Manual labor, but it's the story. In other words, yung mahihirap natin mga kababayan, pag binabasa nilang history na sulat ng mga, di ba, nung mayayaman lamang, paano nila masasabing history nila yun? Di ba? For example, kilala natin yung pangalan nung Amerikanong pumatay doon sa 2 Pilipino sa Philippine-American War. Si Grayson, Lieutenant Grayson. Yung Amerikano. Pero yung 2 Pilipinong pinatay, hindi natin alam yung pangalan. Bakit? Di ba? Kasi kung alam natin yun, tsaka alam natin, yung isa pala, sapatero. Tapos yung isa pala, di ba, kotsero. Di ba? Pero nag-volunteer sila sa gera. Di ba? Dinipensahan nila, namatay sila para sa ating independence, di ba? Kasi mag-iiba yung, di ba, yung sense natin ng history. Eh kaso, paano ka magkakaroon ng sense of history? Yung pangalan ng Amerikano, alam natin, pero yung pangalan ng dalawang pinatay na Pilipino, hindi natin kilala. So yeah, that has to do with education. No? But also, disinformation. Sabi nga nila, it's black propaganda on steroids kasi nga, digital na. Di ba? Digital na. It reaches millions by just a click of a button. Di ba? So talagang, and that's why, di ba? What did they do in the US? Di ba? They suspended Trump's account.
True.
After the fact. After fomenting all the, di ba? All the venom and the hate and the lies. Di ba? They suspended it. So, you know, they can do it. Social media has a key role in preventing disinformation. And they should step up. Government also must regulate up to a certain extent. There has to be some regulation about, for example, the question of policy, the policy question of, do we allow anonymous accounts or not? I think there has to be a sense there na bawal yung peking account. Dapat nire-rehisto yan sa totoong pangalan. Parang gano'n, no? Para kasi kaya malakas ang loob dahil you can, you hide behind. Yeah. Di ba? But can you imagine if kilala ka, alam kung saan ka nakatira, ilan yung anak mo, etc. Magiging, di ba? Mag-iingat ka, hindi ka basta-basta kung anong sasabihin, di ba? So may mga ganon. That requires regulation. But I think also the citizens themselves have to be vigilant. Huwag basta-basta maniwala sa fake news. Alam mo, ang mantra sa akin, walang nagawa itong 20 taon. Hindi naman totoo. Di ba? Pero dahil ang daming nagkakalat at yung mga nagsishare, hindi na naman nagche-check, after a while, naniniwala na wala akong nagawa. Di ba? But that's not true. That's false. You know, we're principal author, for example, of the UP Charter Measure. It was put together after 100 years. You know, and I defended that measure for 3 Congresses and it was finally passed. We doubled the salaries of judges and justices in my first term as chairman of the Justice Committee. You know? And we broke.
Also, what you've done for agriculture.
Yes, I'm principal author of the Coco Levy Trust Fund measure, and also I was chairman of the National Food Authority. We were able to save, we rejected import, offers from Thailand and Vietnam because we said it, overpriced. And then they brought it down, di ba? Ito lang huli yung your dad, di ba? Sa livestock and sa poultry, di ba? Yung issue ng African swine fever, ipinaglaban din natin yan. Kung hindi natin tinulak yan, baka hindi nagkaroon ng declaration of state of emergency sa livestock, sa hog industry. So marami tayong mga ginagawa, pero dahil nga nangibabaw yung fake news at kawawa din yung ating mga kababayan, maraming nagpapaniwala o nalilin lang. So ang panawagan din is for our citizens, be vigilant. Don't be tools of misinformation by sharing information you have not validated or vetted, di ba?
That's true.
So while there is a pandemic, there is also an infodemic or disinfodemic, di ba? Now we have to guard again. So again, just to sum it up, citizens have to be vigilant. Government must put in place regulation to address itong spread of disinformation and fake news. And the social media platforms, di ba? And of course, corporate Philippines.
Responsibility, a corporate responsibility also.
Yung corporate responsibility is fundamental. They have digital ad buys. Do they know where it's going? Do they know that it's funding and providing ads for fake news? And may mga ads. Merong isang channel. Eventually they took it down. YouTube took it down, but yun, yung binubugbog ko daw si Sharon, etc.
Mm.
Ang tanong ko, lumalabas yung mga commercial ng Grammarly, Lazada. Okay lang sa kanila yun na yung digital ad buy nila is funding all this garbage. I'm sure Jollibee would not allow that. I'm
That's
sure
true. That's true.
McDonald's, but they don't. But right now there's
I
no.
think, yeah, I think it's the algorithm kung saan
Yes,
maraming, I think it's really
yes,
the platform's responsibility. That's why Facebook is in Congress right now in the United States, because I think, fake news for some strange reason is more clickable. It's more, I
yeah.
don't know, it's
There,
more
there are
clickable.
more, there are more views.
That's true. That's why ang placement ng ads, parang
So,
hindi nila
so
doon nilalagay.
yeah. So corporate Philippines, the Jollibees, the McDonald's, all these ads that they're putting into digital advertising, they should decide. We don't want our funding to go to our ads to be associated with these channels that produce garbage. Dapat
That's true.
yun. I mean, otherwise, dadating ang panahon, pati yung corporations will be subjected to all this fake news. Diba?
Mm.
Wala na. It's going to be a wild, wild west out there. So where is the money? Who is enabling it? Also the advertising agencies. May mga
Yes.
nagsa-sideline dyan eh. They're the ones who decide, okay, this is the algorithm, this is where the ads go. Regardless, if, it's spewing out lies, garbage, and hate, di ba? And demonization, okay lang dun sa mga corporations. Pagka nalaman nilang, alam ka naman, of course, yung pang cop out is, kasi algorithm yan eh. Di ba? Wala na kaming kinalaman dyan. So, ganun. So, okay lang kung basura yan, tsaka pagsisinungaling yan, tsaka paninirang puri, tsaka puro insulto, puro, di ba?
Basta maraming hits, maraming
Puro
nanonood.
kababuyan. Di ba? Basta marami lang hits. Ganun na ba yun? So, we hope, di ba, that even the corporations, the advertising people, I mean, sooner or later, this is going to bite you.
Yeah.
And maybe even consume you and maybe even destroy you. If you don't, di ba, put your foot down and say, we need to, address this. The disinformation is killing people, di ba? Is maiming people. And, even the algorithms of Facebook, di ba? Kaya pala maraming, yung mental stress, depression. Because
they
all
allow
these
it with the ads,
So it's really something we all have to come together and deal with.
That's true.
In the meantime, what can we do? Let's be vigilant. Let's not share unless we verify and validate, diba? And be mindful. Be mindful.
That's true. Don't even open it. Don't even click it if you see that it's it's going to be harmful and untrue. Don't even click. I want to go quickly back into agriculture because I am a third-generation farmer, and you mentioned that my father is he's president of the United Broilers Association, and I want to ask you, for such an agriculture, because you're very passionate about Philippine farmers, for such an agri-rich country, we're such an agriculturally rich country, why do we import so much?
Well, that's a good question, and I have a book. I'll send it to you, and I'll give your dad a copy too. It's called Tagsipol. It's my journey into farming, and I said this pretty much. What is the difference between Thailand, Vietnam, and Malaysia, and the Philippines when it comes to farming? Simple. They respect their farmers. We don't. They recognize the value of and contribution of farmers in terms of being those who feed the nation. We do not. We take it for granted. In fact, the colonial mindset, di ba, na ito nga,
mas masarap pag imported, oo.
Tsaka subliminal, yung colonial meaning yung exploitation. During the colonial past, di ba, it was all about exploiting and oppressing. Di ba? Lalo na yung producers, yung farmers. Di ba? For example, and it's deeply ingrained and something we have to correct. Di ba? What do you call the lowest of the low in terms of economic status sa Tagalog? Hampas lupa. What does hampas lupa mean, literally? stealing the soil.
Yeah.
Di ba? Nagbubungkal. So bakit naging insulting yung nagbubungkal? Pag ikaw bagsak sa school, nangangamote. O ano na naman, bakit negative yung kamote? Di ba? Tapos pag wala ka ng kinabukasan, pupulutin ka saan?
Sa kangkungan.
Oh, agriculture na naman.
Mm-mm.
Di ba? Parang it's a subliminal way of demeaning and discriminating against those who till the soil.
Hinahamak.
Di ba? Na hindi tama. In Thailand, the king, the one who passed away, si Pumipon, King Pumipon. Sabi niya, the backbone of the nation is the farmer.
True.
Diba? In China, sabi nung, I think it was Confucius or one of those philosophers who said, diba? The most important profession is the teacher. Diba? Because the teacher feeds the mind and the soul. The second most important is the farmer because he feeds the body. And the third and the least is the businessman because he feeds himself. Diba? Parang, in other words, sarili lang niya ang inaano niya. So even in Confucian teaching, mahalaga ang farmer. And si Frankie, when she was 9 years old, I guess she heard me when I was speaking about agriculture because that was my first year as Senate Committee on Agriculture chairman. Sabi ni Frankie, we should treat our farmers like our parents because they're the ones who feed us. Do we actually believe that? Or do we actually, diba, see it that way? No. Collectively, no. Diba? We look down upon farmers. In fact, farmers look down upon themselves. Magsasaka lang ako. Kasi nga of centuries of oppression and exploitation. The middleman today will earn 4, 5, 6 times more.
That's true.
Papatungan niya. Diba? Tama ba yun? Sino ba naghirap? Sinong, di ba? Dahil mahirap siya, wala na siyang boses at wala na siyang kapangyarihan. Aapihin natin at di ba? So that's going on and that's what we have to change. So once we start respecting our farmers and our fisher folk, recognizing the value of their contributions to society, and correct the injustice. Why? I met Mang Romeo in 2016. In Nueva Ecija, a rice farmer. I asked him how old he was. Sabi niya, 73 na ako. I asked him, kailan siya nag-umpisang magsaka. Sabi niya, tinutulungan niya yung tatay niya nung 12 years old siya.
Wow.
So, 61 years, 6 decades, more than 6 decades, he has been farming and feeding the nation. And yet, where is he now? What does he have to show for it? One, he is still farming when he should be retired. And two, he is still poor. So that is not just. A society that accepts that, di ba, is a society that needs to, di ba, parang has to review and revisit all that it stands for and what it means.
That's true.
As a people, you know? So that injustice has to be corrected. And that's why I have been passionate about farming for the last over a decade, because it's really an injustice that needs to be corrected.
And it's a good thing that you are, passionate about agriculture, because I think it balances out. Kasi si VP Leni, wala pa siya masyadong program for agriculture. That's why she had a meeting, I understand, with, members of the... Yeah, that's why. Because kaya perfect na partner ka for VP. I'm winding down, Sen Kiko, and I'm going to ask you the last 3 questions because we've been talking for an hour.
Oh,
it feels
yeah, no?
like, it feels like it flew by. But I want to ask you why we should vote for you as Vice President of as the next Vice President of the Philippines. Big shoes.
I guess I'm just like everybody else who wants better. And that we've been fighting for that for the longest time. I've been charging the windmill since my high school days. I was student council president of UP, marching in the streets for for change. I remember I was still single and I hadn't met Sharon, and I would talk about the need to be involved, and I said, one day we will all be judged. I will have a son one day, I said, and I will call him Kiko Jr. And one day Kiko Jr. will learn to read about Philippine history. And I was talking about this during the Marcos dictatorship. And he would read about the Aquino assassination. The poverty levels was at 40%, nearly half the country was starving. Corruption was, widespread. People were being killed. And then Kiko Jr. will read history and he will come to me and ask me, Daddy, during that time of serious, grave crisis, what were you doing? So I'll throw it back to everyone else. I mean, why? Not so much why should you vote for me, but why should we not do our part in helping bring our country towards the direction it ought to be going? Because we will all be judged. Now we're facing the worst health crisis in 100 years, the worst economic crisis in 2 generations, 40 years. Sabi nga ni Dante Alighieri, the hottest place in hell is reserved for those who, during times of moral crisis, choose to maintain their neutrality. This is not the time to be neutral. This is the time to take a stand. And so I'm sort of, throwing it back to the voters. Why should you vote for me? It's really up to you. And regardless of who you vote for, let's vote for, real change.
Yeah.
And let's vote for those who have shown the willingness to really fight with all their might, to make things right.
I think that's a good catchphrase. I mean, like, voting for you is equivalent to, taking a stand. And I think that's very profound. And I think that's very true also. And I want to ask you also, why should we vote for VP Leni? Why is she the right person for the job? Why is she the person to lead us out of this,
Yes.
dire situation?
She's been vice president for 5.5 years. She has been savagely attacked.
Yeah.
Assaulted, with lies. And yet she has kept her, steadfast and firm resolve to serve, regardless. And we saw that in the last year and 7 months when COVID hit. Every day for the last 1 year and 7 months, morning, noon, and night, she would work on solutions to COVID problems, the problems of COVID. So I believe she is the most competent and qualified and the most deserving. And she did it without fanfare. She did it without calling attention to herself. She's not ipal. She just does her job. Parang I don't know.
Did you say ipal? Did you say ipal?
Without ipal. Epal, without.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ngayon ko lang narinig yung ipal. Epal pala yun.
Epal, sorry. Parang ano yun parang e-commerce. Tsaka... So,
Kaya tayo.
ibang level. But anyway, without, di ba, walang epal, di ba? Talagang she just worked. And she's the most deserving and she's the most qualified. And that's why I committed to helping her.
That's true.
I was asked to help her. Sabi ko nga, how can you... I painted myself in the corner, by the way, kasi nga I was one of those who really pretty much pleaded for her to reconsider her decision. No? She already decided not to run 6 months ago. She wanted to go sa local level. In fact, she texted me when I said, please reconsider. She said 6 months ago, my happiness, sabi niya, really is in the grassroots. Serving directly. Meaning, she really wanted local if she was gonna run at all. So I, meron akong konting parang pag-guilty. Sabi ko, I understand, ma'am, but in the work that we do, sabi ko, in the work that you do, when did you put your happiness first?
Kaya hindi ka
So,
makatanggap sa kanya when
so she
she
said
asked
like that,
you.
prayer. Oh, kaya hindi ako makatanggi, prayer, gano'n. And then, but she also said this, you know, and if it's meant to be, it will happen.
Yes.
So 6 months later, when what was meant to be happened, ayun, paano naman ako tatanggi, di ba? Baka sabihin
Totoo.
niya,
Wala ka
diba,
nang
parang,
magawa, syempre.
parang, and ako, parang, how can I, di ba? Parang, how can I explain?
Yeah.
Baka sabihin niya sa akin, ikaw, Senator, hanggang talk ka lang pala, di ba?
Oo, puro ano, yeah.
You know, you can talk the talk, but you don't know how to walk the walk.
Yeah.
And you know, so I painted myself in the corner, and you know, and I said yes, okay, we will.
Well, I'm very glad that you did because I think it's a right decision on your part. I think it's a right decision for the country also. I think for my second and last question, I want to ask you because historically, hindi nananalo ang mga tandems. I think the last time it happened was Cory Aquino and Doy Laurel,
No,
if I'm not mistaken.
yeah,
Has it
well,
happened before?
Arroyo and De Castro, but of course,
That's the second round, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But why should we vote for you as a tandem? Kasi syempre, di ba, parang hindi to parang Amerika eh. Kung sino yung presidente, siya yun yung,
Yeah.
kung sino,
Yeah.
niya, running mate niya, siya yung vice. Why should we vote for you as Leni Kiko 2022?
Well, we've seen how difficult it is. For example, this last 5 years, di ba? Nang hindi, di ba? And I think in the end, we complement each other. You know, in the last 5.5 years, she's chairman of the chairperson of the LP, and I was president. We've never had any serious disagreements. I mean, we pretty much have the same mindset in terms of governance. Laylayan, you know, di ba? Sa kanya, yung mga marginalized, di ba? Well, you know, I've been championing the cause of farmers and fisherfolk who have been marginalized for the last 10 years. She was a pro bono lawyer, diba? Private public interest law lawyer. I was the same. I would provide free legal assistance and free legal aid to our. So, yeah, we need unity. We need to work together, all hands on deck. The country's problems are so serious that we need to work together. And I think we will effectively be able to work together to serve our people with our utmost. And I guess that's the best that I can say about why it should be us both.
It should be Leni Kiko 2022. Yeah. And as a last question, I want to ask you, what is your stance on the LGBT community when I ask you about anti-discrimination laws and, you know...
Well, I'm one of the authors. I'm one of the authors of the SOGI bill in the...
What can you assure us if we vote for you and you become elected Vice President of the Philippines to the community?
I support, you know, the stand that there should be no discrimination. We support mutual respect. As a human rights lawyer, that has been my advocacy, that we should be able to respect one another's views and one another's choices. So I'm one of the authors of the SOGI bill. Of course, it depends in the end as to whether this Congress, although medyo challenges, it's very challenging, what kind of version will come out of it, if at all, kasi nga, kulang na rin ang panahon. So we'll see how we can do that in the next Congress. Of course, I won't be there, but hopefully you will support our candidates who will be there and who support the passage of the measure.
And as a vice presidential candidate, when you get elected, I'm saying when, not if, when you get elected, you can probably say that you are an ally.
Yes. Well,
very good.
I'm one of the authors. Really, we have to address you know, prejudice, discrimination, and lack of respect. Lahat tayo anak ng Diyos. Let us put it that way.
Amen.
We are
brother.
all children of God.
Amen, brother.
And that's something that you know, I hold dearly.
Thank you so much, Sen Kiko. You gave me much more than an hour. You gave me 19 minutes more. Maraming salamat. You had like a full day and then, you gave me the time. Maraming salamat. And I wish you luck and God's blessing on your campaign. It's going to be a very exciting, year for you. It's going to be a life-changing. It's going to be a very, very important year for all of us. I think the most important election in the history of the Philippines. I'm very excited to vote. I'm very excited to campaign. I'm very excited to talk to people. And thank you for, sharing so much of what you believe in tonight and, informing me and, making me more aware of the things that you believe in. Maraming salamat, Sen Kiko.
Thank you too, G3. And siyempre, at the end, I think there is no other political power on earth that can match, the power of citizens in their vast numbers coming together, taking a stand, and moving and mobilizing towards one objective. Wala nang pwersang political masihigit pa sa taong bayang tumataya, naninindigan at kumikilos tungo sa isang layunin. And that's what we hope to achieve and work on come May 2022.
The new people power. That's the new people power.
Amen.
This generation people power. Very, very, again, thank you, Sir Kiko, Senator Kiko, and good night. Good luck. I know you have a long day ahead of you, like in the coming days. I will be with you in spirit. I will support you all the way. Anything you need, let me know.
Thank you, G3. Maraming salamat at magandang gabi sa kanilang lahat.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.